Hello again, this is Tanya from Tinkerin' and Ink with Tanya, here with another video tutorial on how to create a lovely card. This one is using the Sweet Cupcake stamp set, and it says the best things in life are sweet, and you're one of the sweetest. We're using some of my favorite new products from the annual catalog this year. I'm loving this Peekaboo Peach and the copper embossing powder, and die cuts, of course. I love die cuts. I'm such a sucker for die cuts. So this is the Sweet Cupcake stamp set. Lots of great sentiments and this photorealism on the stamps. Loving that. It comes with a matching die set with the cupcake and a whole bunch of other features, but today we're going to be using this sweet die and the top and the bottom of the cupcake. We're also going to use a retired circle die because that's what I have, and I bet you have circle dies in your stash that will work. This is a 3 3/16 inch circle that we're going to use from the Stampin' Up circle dies, and as you see I have the size. It's written on the side there to keep me in line. And last but not least, we're using the new Sparkle embossing folder. Love embossing too. Boy, I love a lot of stuff. It's a good thing. For the paper, we're going to be using Whisper White, the thick Whisper White card base. It's 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And we'll fold that in half. I scored it with my Simply Scored board. We'll use the bone folder to fold that. We also have a 4 by 5 1/4 inch panel of Peekaboo Peach, a scrap of Whisper White that will fit both the top and the bottom of the cupcake. This is a 1 inch by about 3 inch scrap of Dazzling Diamonds glimmer paper. This is a 3 inch strip of vellum. It would need to be at least 3 inches by 3 1/2 inches in order to fit the circle die on, and a piece of vellum that is around, this I think is about 4 1/2 inches wide, and that's just to get that sentiment for the inside. Got to make sure it's long enough for that panel. So let's start stamping. We're going to start off with the cupcake part. So we'll bring our card back in so you can see that while we're stamping. I want to start with the largest. Now I happen to have a bunch of blocks because I'm a demonstrator, and you need lots of blocks if you're going to be demonstrating to a bunch of people. So these are the D blocks, and I bet you could fit them on the C block too. So we're going to take, this is the lightest layer of this, and we're going to take the Peekaboo Peach ink and we're going to stamp off twice. So ink it up. 1, 2, and stamp it on our piece of paper. It's very light. We're going to take the next biggest piece, or it has the most coverage. Next, step off once, and then got a line up down here in the tip. It's a little tougher to do when you have a camera between you and the paper. Let that sit for a few seconds, and you can see more detail, and this is the most detailed of the stamps. We're going to leave that full strength. One more time, you're going to line up the little pointy and along the bottom. Doesn't have to be perfect, just sorta perfect. There we go. Well, yep. Could have been a little darker. So let's do that again. So this is the biggest one again. Now let's just stick with what we got. That'll work. So we're done with the Peekaboo Peach right now. So we'll move these out of the way, and we'll move on to the crumb cake. So again, we have 3 stamps. This is the biggest, so we're going to ink up, stamp off once, stamp down and back up, get the next one. Very quickly dab that off once, and you're going to line up this in the one side. At least that's how I do it. Well, a little wonky, but that's okay. Does not have to be perfect. I'm going to ink this one up, full strength. Back down in the corner. I line up this little corner and along the edge, and that seems to get me the best result. And then that's ready to die cut. We actually have a bunch of die cutting to do, and I'll try and do it all at once. Next set of stamping we're going to do is with Versamark. So first we need to use our good old embossing buddy on that, and this piece where that circle is going to die cut. Get a rough estimate of how far up I need to go for that one. And then we're going to take the, and yours is the sweetest, or you are one of the sweetest. We're going to ink that up first, and this is for the inside panel. I like to work with a bigger piece of vellum than I'm going to need. And I line that up with the bottom edge of the vellum. Stamp down, lift that straight back up, and then we're going to take the other piece of the sentiment, and we're going to ink that up with vellum, or with the Versamark, and we'll stamp this right about there. This doesn't have to be as perfect, but it's easier to do this now. Okay, we'll cover up the Versamark. We'll move our stamps out of the way and get out the copper embossing powder. I'm going to sprinkle that on here. And I forgot to use the embossing buddy on here. Well, that just shows you why you want the embossing buddy. It helps prevent extras. And then we better do this one. I'll put the embossing powder away. I have way too many colors of embossing powder to have individual containers like some people do. I just can't make that work in my situation. So I'm going to let my heat gun heat up nice and hot. And then we'll heat emboss these words. How can you not love that? That is so magical. All right, it's time to go emboss that and die cut the other pieces, and I will be back. Okay, I'm back from die cutting. So I trimmed this down with my guillotine trimmer, and this is embossed, so we'll take that out of there too. And in one pass, I did all of the die cutting. I just lined it all up on my plate. So we have the cupcake and the cupcake base, and we have the circle, all of those pieces. I have to show you something really slick though. This is the die brush and mat. It's just going to push that right out of there for me. So slick. Now if I can push it through just a little bit. I just need to be able to catch one edge. And of course, in doing it on camera, it's not going to want to let go. Otherwise, you can use the precision plate, and it tends to pop out a little easier, but with the die brush, it doesn't seem to make much of a difference. Look at that. There's our sweet. So we'll get those out of the way. So, as you can see, I attached my vellum here with some stitching. I also have a piece of this Peekaboo Peach ribbon that we're going to cut down to fit on there. Trim off a piece. So it's just a little longer than the word. I'm going to dovetail the end. I know, I have to put everything away first. So I'm going to just take a little bit of glue where the cupcake is going to cover. Put that on the card base. I'll line that up to the edge here, and now is when you can tweak to make sure your sentiment is straight. That looks pretty straight to me, so I'm going to tack that down. Going to use a little more ATG, just a hair, to secure the ribbon for a second. Right there, looks about good. And we're going to put the sweet on here also. I like to line this up so that the T is just hugging the bottom of the R, A-R-E-R. Then we do have the mini stapler from Stampin' Up, but I've had this stapler for years, so I'm going to use this one. If you don't have a stapler, I suggest the Stampin' Up mini stapler. And then I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine. I'm going to sew this panel, the outer side, and then I'm going to stitch the sentiment to the inside of the card base, and I will be right back. Okay, now I'm going to trim off the extra thread with this is my ribbon scissor. It has a piece of baker's twine tied to it. So everyone knows that one is just a ribbon. And stitches. Anything to do with fabric. Get those little chunks out of here. Well, let's trim that puppy too. So now this is ready to go on the card base, but we need to do a little trimming on this. Just going to trim the extra vellum off there. Oop, missed some. Would have been easier had I made this a top fold card like this one, but alas, I did not. Reburnish that. Let's attach this to our card front. We are almost done. We just need to do a little dimensional on the back of the cupcake. So we'll center this. Attach this. Kind of center that over the sprays. And a little bit of dimensional on the back. And then the last finishing touch will be some Wink of Stella over the cupcake frosting. Grab the right one. which none of these are. Where is my clear ink of Stella? Ha! It's hiding from the last video I did. Okay, so I just took and dabbed this over mostly just the darkest layer. There you go, a finished card. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you come back again for more. Check out my blog for more details and for lots of other cards. That's tinkerinandink.blogspot.com. Thanks and bye.